Hello guys, welcome to the 9.0 common test, or the historical battle test, whichever you want to call it, the same thing. I just got this working. It is March 21st, about 8 or 9 in the evening, East Coast. I've only played 2 battles, so I'm still finding new changes to 9.0. So I might be as surprised as you are when you first see this. So don't be too alarmed if I get something wrong or incorrect. I'll go back and make sure I'm factually correct on anything that I speculate on in this video, or I'll try to anyway. So I'll get right into it. The first thing you'll notice is a nice new garage. Very nice looking hangar. It reminds me of a tank museum. It's supposed to be a tank warehouse, I think. I don't think a manufacturing warehouse, probably just a maintenance hangar. But it does remind me of some of the tank museums I've seen videos of. Just the structure and the open window floor plan and the open layout and such. But I really like it. I'm actually debating with myself whether or not I will take out the cave tech hangar that I currently have in my mod pack and just keep the vanilla hangar as this once 9.0 comes out, because I really do like this one. You can see the light shafts, the light rays coming in through the windows too. It looks really neat. Another thing you might notice when you hop on is that there's some I think it's mouse acceleration of some sort, but it only affects inside the hangar and on the load screen into the game. Once you're in battle it goes away, but you can tell when I rotate the camera and I let off to stop rotating it, it takes quite a while for it to decrease in speed and come to a complete halt. And this is a really neat effect. It really makes the camera smooth. And I think they've smoothed out the zoom in and zoom out a little bit as well. But I really like it. It takes a couple of minutes to get used to it. At first it feels like lag, but it's not. And I assure you it only applies inside the garage. But after you get used to it, it's pretty neat. Lastly, the only other change I could see to the hangar, or the garage rather, is the messages system in the bottom, or the notification center is what they're calling it, in the bottom right hand corner. Just the GUI, the graphical interface for it, has been changed to look better. The messages and menus down here in the bottom left still look the same, so hopefully they'll edit those too. But this one looks pretty neat, and when messages actually pop up here, which you'll see later, you'll notice that they look pretty sharp as well. Let's see, so now I think I'll go over the changes to the menu, and there are some very important ones. In the graphics tab, which I'll go over last, there are some really important ones that you'll need to take note of. I'll start with general though. The only change in the general tab is that, as you can see, they have removed the confrontation battle type. I believe they're completely taking it out in version 9.0, and they have done so in the common test. As you can see, it's no longer there, no longer an option. That's the only change on the general tab. There are no changes here per se, but I did see in the ASAP 9.0 video that Wargaming put out that there were some changes made to the in-game soundtrack, so if you want to jump on and crank your music slider up, you can go ahead and do that by all means. I'm going to keep the music off so you guys can hear me clearly. And I usually have this off anyway. No changes to controls, no changes to the marker tab from what I could tell. There are quite a number of new reticle styles. As you can see, there are a couple new ones here. There are a slew of different new reticles that you can choose from. Right now I've got the dot. You can have an O-shaped one, T-shaped, just a bunch of different options here. A red one instead of a green one. I don't believe those were there before in the vanilla game. I don't play much vanilla World of Tanks. I have it pretty heavily modded with my mod packs, so I can't say 100%. I don't recall correctly if those were there, but I don't remember them being there. So I think there are new reticle types that you can choose from. The most important thing, though, is under the graphics tab. And as you can see, they've broken it up into two categories, or two screens now. So you have the first tab called Screen, which controls how the video is displayed on your monitor. And I'll go over that last. And then the Details, which is just the regular video settings that you're used to, just in a different physical layout here. From what I could tell, all the settings here are the same and existed in 8.11, so there's nothing new here. That being said, there are a number of people already who have been noticing equal, or in a lot of cases, better frames per second, so you might actually be able to crank some of these up. The only change that they did make to this section that was not in 8.11 is the dynamic resolution. They actually had this in 8.11, but you can only toggle it on and off. What they've done here is that they've made a slider bar so you can actually go from 50% up to 100 normal resolution and decide how far compressed you want your textures to be when they dynamically change. So if you set it at 80%, they won't go further than 80% of nominal resolution. Won't go below. I keep mine at 100 because my computer has no problem running this game in terms of that. And everything here is the same. Nothing changed for me when I jumped on the test server. The Screen tab is a little bit more important, though. You can see a couple of new options here. Screen resolution, that's pretty, that's normal. You had that before. Full screen, vertical sync, that's the same. Anti-aliasing you saw before. Field of view is completely new. They are allowing you to set your own field of view from 70 degrees to 120. So if you, like any game, set it low, you're going to be way zoomed in like you're playing on a tiny monitor. And if you set it high, you're going to be zoomed out. And I think the max 120 might be a little bit far. I'm not exactly sure what the FOV was in 8.10 and eventually in 8.11 after the hotfix, but I'm going to try and figure out what that value is so I can make sure I set it back to it. But I think I might set it back down to 110, but I'm going to leave it at 120 for now. Another option that they've added is your refresh rate. This says frame rate. That's incorrect. It's refresh rate. I've got mine at 144 because I have a 144 Hertz monitor, which is nice. It's really cool to be able to set that manually. Most of you, if you have vertical synchronization on, you're going to be setting it at 60 since that's normal for monitors. Most monitors anyway, but mine runs up to 144, so I'm going to boost mine all the way up. Aspect ratio, that's been there. You can select which monitor you want to choose, which one you want to game on. I believe they had that before as well. Gamma, nothing new there. Again, you see the dynamic resolution here. That's the same as on this tab. It's not actually in the tabs, it's outside of the tabs, so it's the same on either tab you have selected. And then the color filter. You had these color filters before in 8.11. However, in 9.0 they allow you to set the intensity. And I don't know why they call it filter efficiency. It should be intensity. I'm not sure. Maybe their translators weren't correct on that, but it should be filter intensity. 0, or you can't go down to 0. You might as well just turn it off if you're going to do that. But you can go down to 25%, and you can do it in increments of 25%. So 25% there, you have a little preview image. You kick it up to 50. You can see it apply a little bit further, 75, and then 100. And in 8.11, it was either 100% or 0. I found that I think 75 is ideal for my eyes. It'll differ for different people, but I personally like 75%, and I use a deep filter. I think it adds a little bit of saturation into the game that makes the colors pop for me a little bit more. But that's going to largely depend on A, whichever monitor you're using, and B, personal preference. So whatever you want to set that to, you can. I haven't noticed any frame rate decrease in the color filters though, so I don't believe that, unless you're running just a terrible machine, I don't believe that a color filter will affect your frames. And then I have colorblind mode on. That's just a personal preference. I'm not colorblind, I prefer the purple to the reds. Okay, so that's all the menu settings that changed. Let's see, there are a couple of new German vehicles, 3 to be exact. So I'll go ahead and open up the tech tree and take a look at those. I'm not going to bother buying them because, you know, if you guys want to do that, or you want me to look over a specific tank, I can make a separate video for that. The first new tank is the Stug 3 Aus B, which is a Tier 4 tank destroyer. And you can see here that you have to go to it from the Martyr 38T. That's interesting. It goes Tier 2, 3, 4, then 4 again, and then 5. I wonder if the research costs reflect that. So 3250, 12,500. Huh. So I don't know why you would go up that line to the Stug 3B. Maybe the Stug 3B is just a really good Tier 4. I haven't looked at the stats closely, but it's a Tier 4, and then as you can see, another Tier 4. And it doesn't lead to anything other than the Stug. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to get the Tier 5 Stug, it'd be cheaper to just go for the Hetzer and then go straight to it. So I'm not sure why they put that there in the tree like they did. It's an interesting one. Let's see, there are 2 other new German tanks. Both of them are mediums. And the first is a Tier 3 Panzerkampfwagen 4 Aus A, which is, let's see here, this one right here. Oh, no, that's Tier 3 medium. So I'm looking for a Tier 3 medium tank. This is it. This is a new one. And then there's also a Tier 4 medium tank, which is right here. So those are the two German medium tanks that are new to the game. I don't play anything under tier 5, so it's a little bit difficult for me to comment on tanks this low in tiers, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put up the stats window here so you guys can see the main stats. If you guys have any requests, I can make separate videos for the specific tanks. But those are the 3 new tanks in 9.0. In addition, let's see here, there are 3 new remodels. So just to be clear, 150 of the tanks have been remade for the new shadow, or excuse me, for the new shading algorithms that they're using in 9.0. That does not mean that they're HD. There's only 3 tanks that have been remade in HD. So the 150 tanks that have been remade, you're not going to see much difference in those. Those are going to be minor aesthetic changes that are not going to jump out at you. But there are 3 tanks that the changes will jump out. And that's the 3 tanks that were remade in high definition polygons. And high definition polygons isn't really the correct phrase, it's just simply more polygons. Let's see here. I believe, if I recall from the ASAP video correctly, most of the current tanks are, I think, I want to say 18,000 and below for polygon count. The 3 HD remodels are somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 polygons, so that should give you somewhat of an idea of how much more detailed it might be. The first tank that has been remodeled is the Tiger 1, and let's see, can I... Yeah, I'm going to take off camouflage so you guys can see it clearly. So here's the Tiger 1 HD remodel. You can tell that there's, specifically the tracks are a lot more detailed. And rounded edges they're not truly round, but they're much more round than they were. They're not the hexagon shapes that they used to be. Same for the end of the gun. You no longer have a pentagon shape at the end of the gun. It looks much more round, much more realistic. Have extra tracks here in the front. A lot more detail there. A lot of detail on the observation port here. The machine gun really stands out. It should be easier to hit machine gun ports now that they're much more clearly visible in the tank. Even the rivets are standing out on the gun here. It looks fantastic, and I'm not sure if it's coming through fully in the YouTube video. But if you're not watching this in 1080p or 720p, then you're missing out. Also, the cables are done in HD. They've added a lot of polygons to everything hanging off of the tank. It just looks really, really nice all around. They've done an excellent job, and they've done such a good job that on some of the tanks that I had remodels for, you know, once they make those tanks in HD, I'll probably take my custom remodels off and just use the vanilla tanks that are done in HD, because they really do look stunning. The second tank that has been redone is a T-54, and I won't bother taking the camo off. I think it's pretty clear that it looks a lot better. The wheels and the spokes, you know, the amount of detail here is it's not the best I've seen across games, but it's head over heels better than 8.11. You can even see it on the handlebars here. You know, the rounded edges, rounded corners. Everything on the tank being more detailed really makes depth perception for different objects on the tank very easy. You can tell that there's space under the turret here, and you can tell pretty, almost exactly how many inches of space are under there. It makes weak spots point out or stick out. These hatches are a lot easier to tell where they begin, where they end, and that goes for all of the HD remodels. I think for a typical player, it's not gonna matter too much in terms of finding weak spots, but for players of high caliber, I think it'll be a little bit easier on the eyes, or just people who play a lot. I know it's going to be easier for me to pinpoint some of the weak spots at range due to the high definition textures. Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, the HD remodels of the tanks is probably the coolest new thing for 9.0 that they're releasing. For me personally, I think it's the most impressive new thing they've added to the game. But they have optimized the shading engine for the game as well, which is nice. I don't think they've made it multi-core, but they have optimized it slightly, at least slightly anyway. And the third tank that they've redone in HD is the M4 Sherman, and bear with me here, because I'm going to have to research to it. Okay. Alrighty, so M4 Sherman, here it is. Ooh, this guy's tracks look really neat. The double suspensions here, in particular, look pretty cool. A very impressive job that they've done. And the way they do this is they do what's called normal mapping, which is basically actually drawing to photorealism the tank model, and those usually consist of 1 million polygons and upwards, usually a lot higher than that actually. But a computer cannot render that many polygons in real time. You need a supercomputer for that with, many cores working on many threads, and that's not something for gaming. So what they do is that they create these normal maps of tanks that have 1 million and up polygons, and then they downsample those to the correct amount of polygons that you can actually render on a commercial graphics card. So they've decided that the market's average, or I guess the acceptable amount of polygons for the current market is somewhere along the neighborhood of 50,000 polygons, and going from 10,000 to 50,000, or coming down to 50,000 from 1 million, even 50,000 looks stellar. If they doubled it, it looked even better, but 50,000 is a huge, massive step up from what they had before, and it really shows. And again, I can't tell how well it's going to come out in the YouTube video, since the depression for the codec and such might take away some of the fidelity of the video, but you can get into the common test and see for yourself. It looks stunning. You can even see here the where the tank's been worn a little bit. It doesn't look like a brand new tank. Doesn't look like a terribly old tank either, but it has seen some action. You can tell some of the paint's worn off. You can see the steel under it. You can make out some roughness or bumpiness to it. It just looks really, really good. And from what I've seen in the ASAP video is that even the tank wrecks after you kill these three tanks that have been made in HD, if you kill them in battle, the wrecks look a lot better as well. So what that might mean is that it might be easier to shoot around and past dead tanks if you can more easily see the outlines of them and the shape. Let's see. I'm looking at the release notes for 9.0 on their website, and other than bug fixes and map changes, the only thing left to go over is historical battles. Okay, and it seems that they haven't translated that into English yet. So I'm going to go ahead and hold off on this, wait until they finish it. But, you know, historical battles are here. I don't know if they're actually working or not. The fact that they haven't been translated into English or localized isn't a good sign, but that doesn't mean that they're not working. But they're there. The option on the menu is there at least. Yeah, platoon windows look the same. Here you can see that the notification center, the messages do look a lot better. They're a lot easier to read, and they're a lot cleaner. So that's the basis of the changes in the garage of 9.0 Common Test. Again, this is the first public iteration of a common test for 9.0, so there's bound to be changes made, bug fixes and such. I will make at least one other video, probably more, but the next video for the 9.0 common test will be basic gameplay. There are several changes in gameplay that I will want to share with you guys, so look forward to that. If you guys have any questions or comments, or more importantly, if you want me to go over anything specific for the 9.0 common test, such as a specific tank or specific aspects of historical battles or what have you, go ahead and leave those suggestions in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the 9.0 common test.